Over the last decade, 21 Savage and Metro Boomin has solidified their spot in the music industry. Not only are they successful with their own music, but when they get together in the studio, they make magic. They have 3 albums and countless features together, but there's one key element that is the backbone of all of their collaboration success, and that's Metro's production. So in today's video, we're going to take a deep dive into all the unique production techniques used in Metro and 21 Savage's biggest songs. Metro's production is unlike anyone else's. He knows how to keep it simple but so immersive at the same time. The beats he makes for 21 Savage are super dark, and they sound like an evil villain's theme song, sometimes sampling old records and other times just using a piano. A good example of this is one of their biggest hits, Glock in My Lap. Most of his beats are usually sitting from 130 to around 150 in that range, and they use key instruments such as pianos, synths, church bells, and heavy bass. To start off the beat, I'm going to be using this piano phrase from The Wizard's new kit called Massive Flesh Chapter 2. I'm going to use this kit for the whole beat because it has the Halloween vibes, and that's exactly the vibe that Metro's beats have for 21 Savage. At the time of this video, there's a free version of this kit. I'm going to have a link in the description where you can download that for free. But if this video is more than a week old, then the free version won't be available anymore. But you can still get the full kit on the producercrate.com. Be sure to use my code Robert6 to get 10% off of anything that you get on the producercrate.com. Metro likes to chop his samples up a lot, so I went ahead and picked out the best parts of the piano that I played. Then I consolidated it into one track. So here's our new chopped sample. Metro also has a lot of eerie ambience in his beats. So what we're going to do is duplicate this, make this clip unique, pitch it up an octave, turn down the volume. Now we're going to add some reverb. I like to use Valhalla. It's a really good plugin. Basically drowning it out. I have the mix knob on 73%, so it's mainly just reverb. Then I'm EQing out all the low end, and I'm also shaving off some top end. That's gonna leave more room for the main piano. So now with that new layer added, this is what it sounds like. Definitely getting that Halloween scary type of vibe. Metro likes to use sound effects sometimes, so let's see if we can find something. I found this crazy scream in the Massive Flesh kit. I also went ahead and routed it to the same mixer track as the eerie pad so that we can get the same drowned out feeling. Now with the scream added, this is what it sounds like. Now that we have the melody finished, let's move on to the driving force of Metro Boomin's beats, the drums. Metro uses hard-hitting drum samples, but when it comes to the patterns, it's actually really simple. For example, on the song Runnin', the hi-hats are only doing a couple rolls. The snare is super simple, and on the second half of the hook, you can hear an open hat come in that is also very simple. I noticed that Metro doesn't use hard-hitting 808s necessarily. He focuses on having the kick being the driving force to the rhythm, but he isn't called Metro Boomin for no reason. Just because his 808s don't have the punch that the kick is already there for, his 808s are super heavy with a lot of sub-frequency bass. You can really hear this in their song Glock in My Lap. The kick is the most prominent in terms of the punch, but the 808 carries out the beef of the track. The Massive Flesh 2 kit also has drum kits in it, one for retro, one for trap, and one for vintage sounds. But we're gonna use the trap drum kit, obviously. Remember, Metro keeps his snares really simple, so that's what we're gonna do. Just lay down this simple snare pattern, and now here's what everything sounds like together. Moving on to the hi-hats, Metro likes to do some rolls here and there, not too much though. So we're gonna keep it simple with this hi-hat pattern right here. You can see that some of the notes go down, and that's just giving it an extra bounce. Then I went to half step and did this little roll here. Right before it all repeats again, I do one little roll here, but I use the velocity going down to make it sound like it's falling. Another thing I noticed is that the hi-hats aren't perfectly on time. They're slightly shifted off time to give the beat more swing. So what you can do is highlight every note and slightly drag them to the right, and slightly moving them off time adds way more bounce to the beat. I noticed that Metro also has some slight reverb on his hi-hats. So that's exactly what I did. I pulled up Valhalla. You're going to want to have a short decay, not too long, because you don't want it to just build up and have too much clutter. I only blended in the reverb by 5%. I got a kick out of the same kit, then added a simple but catchy pattern. Now for the 808, we're looking for an 808 that has a lot of sub frequencies. So I used 808 number 2. I copied the same pattern from the kick right into the 808. The only thing that I changed is these 2 notes going up 1 note. I also have a slide note right here at the end because I noticed in some of Metro's beats, he uses quick slide notes to transition to the next part. So I use a slide note to transition right before it repeats. The last thing we're gonna add is an open hat. So I got open hat number 3. Metro keeps it really simple with the open hat. And I noticed instead of following the 808 like most people do, he kind of has the open hat doing its own pattern. We're gonna move the open hats off time a little bit to add more swing. Here's what everything sounds like so far. If you listen to Metro and 21's song, Glock in My Lap, you can hear how much it switches up, going from just a piano to adding strings, a choir, and a bell. So that's what we're gonna focus on now. We have a great start to our beat, but now we need to bring it to life. So I'm gonna take some of the elements that we already have in our melody and flip it into something else so that it's not just a boring beat with the same thing happening the whole time. Metro uses switch ups to change the emotion and let the listener know which section of the song that they're listening to. I've arranged out the beat a little bit. I cut out some of the drums when the verse comes in, then I bring them back in. Just doing little simple transitions like not having certain sounds in the verse will make the listener understand when the verse comes in and when the hook comes in, and that's what Metro is so good at doing in his beats. I just took out one little bar of the main piano that we have, then I just repeated it over and over again. I pitched it up an octave, then I EQ'd some of the highs out so it's not as harsh. Now we have an entire new layer. Here's what it sounds like with the new layer. And that comes in on the second part of the hook. The first part of the hook doesn't have an open hat. Then when the second part of the hook comes in, that eerie pad goes away. The new layer that we just added comes in and the open hat comes in. If you listen to Glock in My Lap, he also has this high distorted synth in the background. So I'm gonna use a synth one shot from the Massive Flesh 2 kit. Before anything, I suggest putting delay on the synth because you're gonna wanna capture that eerie ambient vibe that Metro has. This is what we have so far now. It's simply just going down the scale, then going back up, then repeating over and over again. But it's elements like this that progress the beat and gives the listener the cue on what's going on. So for the verse, we're back to the main piano that we have and the eerie pad. The only difference is that I made the clip unique and I pitched it down an octave to give it a different feel for the verse. Now here's what the transition from the hook to the verse sounds like. See how when the verse came in, you knew when the verse came in. Then for the second part of the verse, I added back the same synth that we had in the chorus, but I made the clip unique and I pitched it down. Now we're to the first bridge of the track, and to keep the energy going, we're gonna add this sub bass from the Massive Flesh 2 kit. It's a simple pattern following the same progression that the 808s are following. Not only did I add the bass to the bridge, but I also kept the hi-hat and the snare going. So here's what the bridge sounds like now. And just like that, the beat is finished. So let's take a listen to it. Let me know in the comments if you think I nailed Metro's legendary production. That scream is crazy. Yeah. There's so much bass on those 808s. Then the more sounds come in. Oh, that synth. The transition is so clean to the verse too. If you want to see how Atlanta producers are making their beats, click this video.